Wow, there's a lot of you. I have to tell you something about Hisa Satsui. Hisa was going to be here today. You know, my dear professors from Millersville, they know Hisa. They worked together with him for over 15 years, and these lovely people adopted me. And you know, it's going to be really an embarrassment if this story doesn't go anywhere. I keep making it up as I'm going along. But 8 years ago, when I started in Duncannon, Pennsylvania, and walked the whole way south to Springer Mountain, it was actually in Black Betty and hometown of Franklin, North Carolina, that I interviewed for a job at a place called Embry-Riddle. And the only reason Embry-Riddle knew about me is because Hisa was there on a one-year visiting position, and Embry-Riddle was, someone left for a different position, you know, and they were wondering, should we try to find somebody at the last minute, or should we do a proper search next year? And Hisa says, I think I know this guy that might be pretty good that's in the woods. And they were like, what is this guy in the woods? But anyhow, long story short, he actually gave them my phone number, and they agreed to let me come out to Arizona and teach there. So 8 years later, and a very dear friend and colleague called John Jenkins, who just recently passed his 35-year anniversary, okay? And, you know, Hisa and I, for the 8 years that I've been there, Hisa and I have been each other's right and left arm. You know, there was one semester where there was sickness that came through the department in the middle, and you know, Hisa and I were both teaching a huge load, but then some sickness happened, you know, and some more classes needed to get covered, and the only way that it was going to work out is if Hisa and I decided to come together and team teach it and do it together. So we went to Olive Garden and we looked at each other and we said, it's 2 months. It's 2 months. We can pull together and do it, you know. And we somehow taught, like, I think the lion's share of every class that's offered. And that, I mean, there other people were too, but all the subjects were there. But anyhow, so I have that relationship with Hisa, and you know, he was tasked this with responsibility that he had to stand up and speak in front of, you know, like all of the administrators, because there's this, every year they have this annual event where if somebody's been there for 35 years, every administrator comes in, the president's there, you know, every distinguished person connected to Embry-Riddle is somehow there, and the department chair of each department is supposed to stand up and say something nice about this guy. But John Jenkins has been there for 35 years. 35 years is John's entire life. And he was a little bit nervous about saying something. And he called me up and he said, you know, he's like, Jason, I have this thing tonight, and I also have like 4 lesson plans to do, and he says, I don't even know what to say about it. And he says, I've been asking people and they give me some type of idea, but I don't know, I guess I'll go there and talk about it, and hopefully the people will like it, you know. And that, I said, all right, and I told him my ideas, and, you know, it's not my 5 years, so I wasn't invited to the event, so I wasn't there to see it. But, you know, I know that Hisa went that night, and I came back the next morning, and I said, hey man, how did it go like? And he says, well, you know, they clapped at the end, it seemed like they liked it, you know, and then I went to the bathroom, and my buddy Sean Gerald was there, and to describe Sean Gerald's, June and Pat Johnson and Michael are my theater friends, and Sean Gerald's is the person that brought theater to the West for me. He is the Prescott theater community. So if you can imagine these 3 amazing people balled up inside of one person, and then somehow combine it with hometown. That's Sean Gerald's. Okay, knowing about theater, and he knows a little something about, I don't know, standing up in front of people and talking about it, as it were, you know. And the thing is when I came back from the bathroom, I went by his door, and his eyes went this big. He says, your boss knocked it out of the park. He says, we've never heard anything like that. in the last 20 years. He said, John has felt so honored. He is, you know, universe is, you've made the rest of his entire life. And indeed, by the time that I got back from the bathroom, you know, the president of the university is literally at Hisa's door saying, sir, you made our entire banquet last night. And then when these people went away, Hisa said, yeah, so I guess I didn't mess up. And this is my boss, you know, and this is one of my mentors up to and including, just from, as Segway so beautifully talked about with the Fibonacci's, you know, but the reason that I brought up knocking it out of the park is I have to tell you a little bit about my day, you know, that I went upstairs around noon and I knew that there was going to be people arriving, you know, and I was a little nervous because I never really planned the wedding, you know, and I knew that people was showing up. And so I called Segway upstairs, and I had Segway come up and stand there with me, and I said, Segway, of all people here, you've been with me for over like 2,000 miles or close to it. And I said, you've bared witness to the fact that I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. What Mary Ellen said is correct. I cannot find my way out of a math building, you know? But the thing is that all of you came here collectively. And when I came down those stairs today, it wasn't planned. It was the love that you guys brought into this room. And we've all been talking about love. And I woke up this morning with Papa Bear. And I I told you I didn't prepare, but the point of it is, and I want to talk about love, but I couldn't have imagined that this is, I knew that that's where I feel like Hisa, in some sense, that it's like, but Hisa and I connect in so many ways, but as much as I love Hisa, who would have been here today, you know what I mean? But there was some responsibility back in Arizona, and but the point is I'm wanting to have the Sean Gerald's reaction to it, that all of you here with me today, and lifting us up and talking to us the way that you just did. You knocked it out of the park. I just had to come downstairs and just sort of wait for it to. I mean, LJ said he was going to do a song. But the reason that I embarrassed myself, that after I actually woke up and came downstairs and was drinking coffee and Papa Bear and I happened to be there at the same time. You know, it's the correct description. You know, but Maria was saying that Papa Bear knows Arizona so well, and he knows Sedona, and that's where you were talking about love. And you know, Black Betty talked about me being a little bit broken in 2011, and to say it shortly, at that point, I think I'd been teaching at Embry-Riddle about 5, maybe 6 years, and because I can't do arithmetic, I couldn't figure it out just there. But the thing is I felt like my only chance to be like out in the country and out in the valid place where I could find my person. I think that I've been searching for before I was born, and that's what my sister was talking about so gloriously, and that's the faith that she filled me with, that she said, she's out there, just keep walking. You know, what she finished with at the end was Sir Woodchuck, who, for whatever reason, has recently changed his name to Moosehead. But presiding over this wedding, you know, and it was in 2010 that Woodchuck called me and says, Floyd, My wife has bought me a plane ticket to Bangor, Maine, and I have no idea how I'm going to finish the trail. And I said, well, you're never going to believe it, but I've been at this lady Rebecca's house for like 3 years in a row. And I drove Rebecca crazy with this man. And she should literally come up and punch me for the 2010 experience. But when I picked him up at the airport, he was saying, Floyd, I am just beginning to believe that we are together. He says, and that became our mantra, that we are together. And the finished part of that is, and even when we're not, we are together. And that's it. And I brought